Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the Black and White United show. I'm your host Andreas. Thank you so much for tuning in with me this morning. We are going to preview our do or die clash pretty much against Adelaide at the Adelaide Oval this Saturday. Let's just get straight to it. Roll the intro.
0, 1. Let's get started.
Today's episode is brought to you by the Hopper Bros Barbecue. For all your tips and tricks and everything barbecue, make sure you give them a like on Instagram. So the dust has settled. We got slapped against Hawthorn. It's a new week. We've got some ins coming out. We've got some ins coming in, I should say. We've got some outs coming out of the side. There will be more changes, unfortunately, which is not what you want this time of the year. But that's just reality of our position with our list, our position with our form, and, pretty much everything else that hasn't fallen our way over the last month. This game against Adelaide, I think, is going to really prove where and give us a real proper indication of where we are sitting coming into finals. It's more than likely now, and I think it's pretty much certain with Sydney doing us the favour and beating Brisbane at the Gabba last weekend. We are going to end up playing finals. We're not going to miss finals, so we can have a little bit of a sigh of relief when it comes to that. The fact that 6 weeks ago we're sitting 10 points clear or roughly like that on top of the ladder and we're just cruising along, my personal opinion is the boys have got complacent. They're only human. They're going to be burnt out. They've got, they're probably just wanting the season to finish so they can go to the next part, and that is to play in September. There's a million different excuses and reasons that I can make up which reflects our form, but I think it's safe to say that this game against Adelaide is going to give us a proper indication of where we're at. I was hopeful against Brisbane. I was really confident against Hawthorn. I'm not confident against Adelaide. I think Adelaide are just peaking at the absolute right time. They're gelling well as a team. I enjoy watching them play. They had a bit of a down day against West Coast, let's be real. And there's a million different scenarios that I can give you for this game, and I'll probably give you a couple along the way. One of them being is the fact that they went to Perth, and a lot of people are saying that their trip to Perth, and they've got to come back. It's a little bit of a shorter break, than what Collingwood have against Hawthorn. I don't really think the trip back from Perth to Adelaide is as big as what it would be from Perth to Melbourne, Perth to Sydney, Perth to Brisbane, or Perth to Gold Coast. I think it's Perth to Adelaide really isn't that much of a big deal and a massive factor. Rory Laird being out of this game is obviously it works in our favour a little bit because he's an A grader. And him not playing, works in our favour. I'm hearing the word, I think Peatling might be out. That's another bonus for us. But Adelaide are just well-drilled all over the park. They're well-drilled when it comes to structure, when it comes to scenarios like we were in the middle part of the year. If there is a moment where they are down like they were against Hawthorn in the first quarter. And you heard Tex say in his post-match press conference against Hawthorn, they didn't panic. They were down. They knew what needed to be done, and they did it. And that is so much like us and how we were, especially in that middle part of the season. I think we went 8 weeks unbeaten between Geelong and the Gold Coast, I think it was. So looking back on it now, we were pretty much where Adelaide is now in the middle of the season. Does that mean we peaked too early? There is a potential for that, yes. What does that mean for this game? Well, I genuinely believe that that's probably not the way to say it. I wouldn't be surprised with any result. And this is the first time I've come into a game this season where I wouldn't be surprised if Adelaide pumped us. I wouldn't be surprised if it was within a kick on the final siren each way for Adelaide or Collingwood. And I wouldn't be surprised if we go over to Adelaide and absolutely pump them and get the win. Because it would be the most Collingwood thing to do. Backs against the wall, the dirty pies like we were when we went to Perth, the dirty pies like it was when we went to Freo and we were depleted and we won this year by, I think it was like 14 points. Just backs against the wall, solid win, and, we set ourselves up for a good fortnight of football, then we take the break and then we go into the final series in potentially third or fourth position. What I really think is going to happen, I wouldn't be surprised with those outcomes. I do genuinely believe that Adelaide will get on top of us. I think it'll be a closer game than not. I hope it's a closer game than not. I think the boys switch back on. And look, if we were to lose within a kick, it would be disappointing. It would be gut-wrenching. It would be very, very deflating. But I think the thing that would be the most evident and most positive aspect of the game would be that we played better, and then we can move on to the Melbourne game, which then the Melbourne game becomes an absolute must-win. We'll worry about that after the Adelaide game, but this game in particular, if we're able to sneak the victory, it would be such a morale boost, and it can really put us on a path for the final 4 games of the year potentially that we could play, to see how far we could get into September and give us a really good run home. All being in Melbourne, depending on obviously where we finish on the ladder. I want to see Jordan DeGoey. I want to see him turn it up this game. This is the game where you turn it up. I'd love it if Fly turned around, threw a spanner in the works. I mean, you've been throwing spanners in the works for God knows how long now with positional changes or with positions and ins and outs and stuff like that. That's the consistent theme of the season. And this is the frustration coming out of me. Put Dan Houston in the middle. Put Dan Houston up forward. Put Josh Dacos in the middle. I know with Jeremy Howe out, our back line's a little bit depleted. They've got 3 big, tall forwards. But let's use our strength in the midfield and limit how many times the ball goes down into their forward line. Darcy Moore's out of form, but guess what? You got a massive task this week. You're the captain. It's time to step up. Whether you take Thilthorpe, whether you take Fogarty, whether you take Walker, it doesn't matter. Adelaide is such a well-drilled side, and this is the time now that we're going to be tested. We're either going to look like slow old men, or we're going to look like an experienced, well-drilled unit that knows how to handle September pressure. Because I truly believe that that's what we're capable of doing. The dust has settled from the Hawthorn loss. This game against Adelaide is so important. With the re-signing of Scott Pendlebury and Darcy Cameron, which is massive. It's the morale boost amongst the supporters. It's the morale boost amongst the team that we need. Who's going to be in this game? I think Bo McCreary comes in. There's some big question marks over Bobby Hill. I am led to believe that Bobby Hill won't play this game. It's a 50-50 call depending on how he trains. Tom Morris said last night on Footy Classified that, he does want to play this game. But from my understanding, the club is obviously very hesitant to play him just due to not having as much training and match fitness as the others. Obviously, him getting gastro last week, which was legitimate, let me put that out there. He obviously didn't have the same training block as the rest of them. So thrash him on the park this week, send him to Adelaide as potentially an emergency or just to chill with the boys and get his mental state up with everything he's going through, get his morale boost up, and then unleash him against Melbourne, against just the depleted side next week, and see what he can do to secure us a top 4 spot, get everything going, and then the season's over and we reset and it's a new game come September. Let's get through this Adelaide game. I hope we win. I genuinely hope we win. I think Mason Cox needs to come in for this game. I think we need the support for Darcy Cameron. With a depleted backline, Darcy Cameron would be amazing to go down back and do some intercept marking. Keep McStay, keep Myercheck, keep everybody up forward. They're not defenders in our side. They are bona fide forwards. Let Cox pinch hit in the ruck. Let Darcy Cameron do his thing and dominate against a very tall, experienced and, red hot Adelaide. There is a chance for us to win this game. Let's be real. There is a dead set chance that we could go up there and then we could win. But then you think about the Hawthorn game, even though the dust has settled, and the reality hits of how poor our form's been, and you think, Jesus, we can't go in like that. We have to go in with a completely different mindset for this game, and we have to be desperate, and we have to want it, regardless of how cooked you might be, regardless of how tired you are, regardless of what's happened over the last 5 weeks of football. The end of the day, we are still sitting in the top 4. We are playing finals football in 2025 regardless. There are teams out there that are putting it on us that are nowhere near qualifying. Even if there was a wild card round in this year, they're stuck towards the bottom, and you know exactly who I'm talking about. Let them sit there, let them rot. Let us go out there against Adelaide and try and snatch this win so we can set ourselves up for what could be a fantastic September. My final predictions for this game, taking my Collingwood hat off and putting my football brain on, I suppose, how I should say it, not being biased or anything. The most likely result is I think Adelaide will win by 26 points in this game. The most realistic result. But there's belief in me, there's hope in me that we come out and we play the Dirty Pies way, and I hope to God that this happens. There's a lot of things that have happened this week behind the scenes in regards to player movement speculation and all this type of crap. I think it's pretty comfortable to say all this stuff about Beau McCreary is utter bullshit, and I'm more than happy to put myself out there and say that, and if I'm wrong, whatever. But he hasn't toured facilities at Port Adelaide. He's not going to the Gold Coast Suns. He's a contracted player at Collingwood. He's a required player at Collingwood. He's a premiership player at Collingwood, and he'll remain at Collingwood. Contract talks with Brody Myercheck and Jamie Elliott and whatever other players are looking for. Let that just write itself out. That's between the managers and the clubs. Don't worry about what the mainstream media says, because everything that they've said over the past couple of weeks has been factually incorrect. I can tell you quite confidently, with some inside knowledge, that Darcy Cameron's contract was signed 2 weeks ago, and they chose it to release it on a certain date. Within that 2 weeks, you've got Tom Morris, you've got Jay Clark, and you've got, all of a sudden, John Ralph, who's, he's obviously the fly on the wall at the AII Centre. Like, come on. There is absolute bullshit that's been spoken about these contract stuff with Collingwood. Darcy Cameron had signed 2 weeks before they released it on social media. And everything he was saying was completely and utterly incorrect. There is no rift amongst our player group. There is no, angst amongst managers and players and clubs and all this stuff. The club is working their ass off behind the scene to make sure that they can inject the right players into the side for next season, to make sure the players are still good to continue on this season and try and win this fucking thing. We're Collingwood, we make the money. Regardless of where we're sitting on the ladder, we make the bank for the AFL. We make the bank for the other teams. When teams want to have their marquee games, what do? Can we play against Collingwood? Can we have a home game against Collingwood at the MCG? Oh, hello, my name's the Brisbane Lions. We want to have an Easter Thursday blockbuster. Can we play against Collingwood at the Gabba? Oh, hello, Western. Oh, hello, AFL. I'm the Western Bulldogs. We want to celebrate our 2 premierships in 1 billion years. Can we play against Collingwood at the MCG? but yet everyone complains, oh, Collingwood get these home games, Collingwood play games at the MCG. Well, then leave us alone. We make everyone money. We make everyone headlines. Even when we're playing crap, the journos will be on us. There will be nothing better than to go out against Adelaide, even though realistically I don't think it's going to happen. I will put that out there. But it would be so good to come out against Adelaide, to beat them on their home deck, to secure a spot in the top 4, regardless of what happens against Melbourne. Play ourselves into form, have the week off, and have our best 23 out there for either a qualifying final against Geelong at the MCG or a qualifying final back over at Adelaide against the Crows. I will tip Adelaide in this game. I do think that they are, and I say this with absolute all due respect to the rest of the competition, I think Adelaide are the best team in it at the moment. I don't rate Geelong, flat track bullies, beating all the little kids below them. Are they going to be hardened for finals? Don't know. We'll see. But respect where it's due. Adelaide are a fantastic side. They're playing fantastic football. They're very dangerous. Yes, we beat them earlier on. The weather could play a factor. It's supposed to absolutely bucket down on Friday in Adelaide. So the ground's going to be wet. It's going to be one of those sloppy days those sloppy nights at the Adelaide Oval, but we'll see what happens. Let's go out there. Let's give it absolutely everything. Let's stick together as a supporter base. And let's try and get this dub against the Crows and just shut everybody up. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But let's just give it a crack. Make sure you drop a comment. Tell me what you think. Call it as you see it. And as always, go the Pies.